Alright guys, so this is in continuation to the previous video about the framework, or rather a Cucumber TestNG based framework, and in this specific video I will be talking about the Selenium Grid setup and how we can make use of Selenium Grid, or rather I should say the Dockerized Selenium Grid, which is made available to us by Selenium team, and it's very good, and solves a lot of your problem with parallel execution or setting up different versions of browsers or environments and all those things. Uh, for previous talk about how a framework or what components of the framework we should be using, because in the previous video I was explaining about the various components of the framework. So for that you have to go to this article, it's in LinkedIn, and there I've also put the video as well as the details about these components. So if you want to know that, then you please go there. But for this specific part of the video, I will be talking about setting up of Selenium Grid and execution of my test cases, which I was doing earlier on my local system, or rather in parallel. So these 4 test cases I was trying to execute in parallel. I was doing this on local, but now I would like to set up my grid so that I could do this in a grid environment. Now to do that, I'm not setting up my grid the traditional way. Rather, I will be using the Docker. Now, if you're really new to Docker, I would recommend go to here. It is a very good Docker tutorial on what Docker is and how Docker and all work, what is containers and everything. It's very good. Just follow this, and by the end of this, you will be expert. Not expert, but you will get pretty good idea of what Docker is. All right, so I'll go back to my original agenda, so which is the setup of Selenium Grid. Now Selenium team has come up with Dockerized approach of their product, which is documentation of it is present here, and it tells you how you can make use of and how you can set up Docker for yourself. So if you are, so I don't have a server where I could demonstrate this, because usually Docker has to be orchestrated in an using some managed service, maybe in AWS or a Kubernetes cluster needs to be there, which I don't have the luxury of. So I will be demonstrating this on the local. So how you will do this on local, rather for a lot of projects, if you have Docker installed in a system, this could still be very handy in terms of executing your test cases in parallel, as well as on multiple browsers. If you have in your project, or in your, even for your personal needs, if you can actually set it up on your local system using a file called as Docker Compose. So if you're very new to Docker, this thing might not make much sense to you, but you can still continue to watch this video so that you know what you're missing if you don't use Docker. What is the capability Docker is providing? What is the advantages you're getting when you use Dockerized Selenium Grid? All right, so here there's a whole documentation about how you're going to make use of. I am going actually making use of this Docker Compose file, so that I will spin up all the containers, and the file which I'm using is actually this one, which some tweaks and all, and that is what I will show. So if this is the framework which I was explaining earlier, I have a special file here called as Docker Compose.yaml. This is the definition of the whole grid. So typically, if you are already aware about Selenium Grid, at least you would know that in Selenium you have usually these two concepts of node and hub. So hub is the one where you route your requests, right? And node is where your test, or node is where your browser gets triggered and executed and executes your test case. So I have this Selenium hub. This is a typical YAML file. This is how I define my cluster. So I'm defining my cluster using Docker Compose for my local environment. And for an enterprise product, for enterprise projects, this has to be hosted on a Kubernetes cluster. For that, they also provided the Kubernetes deployment files, basically how to deploy on Kubernetes. And if you want to use Helm chart, unfortunately there is no Helm chart mentioned here, but Helm charts are also present, and you can Google it and you will get some existing Helm charts for deploying on Kubernetes your Selenium cluster. For the sake of simplicity, I'm only explaining it using a Docker Compose file for your own local setup. All right, so what I've done here is I am listing the hubs here, sorry, the nodes here. So I am saying I have Chrome node 1, Chrome node 2, Chrome Node 3. Then I have one Edge browser, I have one Firefox browser, I have one Opera browser, and then you can also use APM, but I'm not using it right now. And then you have one Selenium hub, and these are the ports which is being exposed to. So in just layman terms, how it works is it creates this set of containers which represents a machine in itself, in its own right, and they interact with each other. So all these nodes representing different browsers will be attached to the hub, and this is the place, this is the location where I will be pointing my test executions to. So this is my framework basically, and here I have inside my driver manager, inside this I have, for example, in the case of Chrome, I am saying if I'm passing the grid execution type as grid, it will create the instance of remote web driver, and the URL I am passing here as config.selenium grid URL, and this grid URL I have configured in the core config.properties here. So basically I will be pointing my Selenium tests to this URL, localhost 444, and I think in the previous implementation of grid you might also have seen something like I think wd/hub or something like that, wd or something, but here you don't have to do that. You can you don't have to actually write anything, you just can point your test cases or remote web URL to only this URL. Why localhost? Because as I said, this is a local environment, and when I spin up this container, spin up this Docker Compose file, it will be creating these containers which, as I said, act as a virtual machine, and this is on that actually my hub will be running, pointing to 4 and exposing itself, or exposing the port 4444, where it will listen to any request which I might or any test might send. So this is the entry point for my hub, and all the nodes marked here will be attached to this hub, and this hub will manage my test execution and all the parallel execution requests, and it will queue based on the availability of the nodes. And if you notice, I have 3 Chrome nodes available, one Edge node and one Firefox node, and you will actually see that, rather one Opera as well, and you will see that when I spin it. Now let's see how you'll spin it, and I have some instructions here as well. I mean, main instruction you can actually go and see here if you want to do it yourself, but if you want to make use of what I have done here to get you started, I have written some steps here as well. So to bring the Selenium grid, you have to write Docker Compose up, and then Selenium grid will be available here. You can go to your browser, type localhost 4444, you will get to see the Selenium grid UI. And another good advantage here is that you can also get the live video feed of the test execution, so that is available in 7901. So I've tweaked this Docker Compose file. It is not exactly what you would see when you copy Docker Compose file from this. I have put some extra ports here, so 7901, 7902, 7903. I mean, they have put these ports as well, so that I could get the live feed, the live video feed, right from my browser to to see what's going on in these containers. All right, so I'll go back again to the readme document, which is here. So once you do that, then if you hit 7901, and it will ask for password, the password will be by default, it's you can put secret there, and it will take you, and I'll demonstrate this in a while. Now how you will execute it is, you will run to use this framework, I have created these two system variables. So browser, you have to pass browser, and you have to pass execution type as grid, or rather you can just put a profile here. So basically this is for local. If you want to run it locally, then you would do this, but if you want to run grid, the way I have configured my framework here is I am saying -p chrome grid, which I have actually put here in the POM file. So I'm creating this, I create these two profiles, Chrome grid and Firefox grid, and I'm here passing system variable as browser as Chrome and execution type as grid, which is being fetched inside my framework, and based on what I'm passing here, it will create the driver accordingly. So let me first run the command when I want to run locally. When I say maven clean install -d, rather I will just copy paste from readme file. I will go and copy paste this statement. So what I'm demonstrating right now is how this framework executes the test cases. I'm using Cucumber with TestNG. and it executes my four test cases which I have here in my feature file in parallel. So it has started the four execution for browsers. I am here targeting amazon.in for just to test it. Three different scenarios doing three different things, or rather actually four different scenarios doing four different things. And test cases got successful, and here is my report. I can also show you the report. I'm using extend report, grasshopper, dash cucumber 6 adapter, and I have explained this in previous video. Actually, you can go and have a look at it. I will just click on open and Chrome, and this is my report, and these are my four test cases. For each test case, I am for before each and after each step, I am taking a screenshot which is being captured. Oh, okay. Right now I want to run the same thing on grid. Okay, so let me bring my grid up. So to bring the grid up, if you see my README document present here, I need to run Docker Compose up. And I have this Docker Compose file here, and all I would do is say Docker. Let me first close these, all the open terminals. Let me start a fresh one. I will say Docker Compose up. And the moment I do this, it will try to locate a file called as Docker Compose. It will look for Docker Compose.yaml. If is not present in my root folder where I'm running this command, it will not. It will throw an error. It require a Docker-compose.yaml file. If you have a different name to it, you have to pass it via -f, and you have to pass the name. Docker Compose is the default name. Docker Compose usually pick. Now my grid is up. Now how to validate grid is up? You go back, you go to the browser, you type localhost 4444, and this is what you will see. So here it will first actually land up here. It will show you how many browsers it has at its disposal for execution of your test case. It's saying it has one stereotype, or it's actually the type of the browser. It is saying Opera, it is Edge, Chrome 3 Chrome, and then one Firefox, right? And here the max concurrency is usually one. You can increase the max concurrency in the sense you want, because all of this act as a virtual machine in which there is a browser installed, and you can route your test cases to this. Rather, you don't route it directly to the node, you direct it to the hub, and hub takes care of it. And based on how much max concurrency is there, based on that it will execute. Right now I have not put anything, so by default max concurrency is one. That means if I'm passing, if I'm saying I want to run three test cases, and on Chrome, it will one test case will run here, one test case will run here, one test case will run here. That means at one point of time only one test case will execute in one stereotype. But if I say max concurrency as 5, that would mean that I should be able to execute more test cases per machine. It's just for faster execution. So I'm just demonstrating three separate Chrome, and this you can control from your Docker Compose. If you see Docker Compose, I am saying that I have Chrome node 1, node 2, and node 3, one Edge, one Firefox, one Opera. That's what you see here. Okay, and for increasing the max concurrency, something like this is what you have to put here. So I put it here, but actually this has to be supposed to be put inside these nodes, and it will execute, then start executing more test cases per container. Right now if you see sessions, nothing session, it means there is no request so far, and the grid is looking for, it's ready for execution, and you have to send the request to this. And how do you send? Is it that is by executing or triggering your test pack and routing or pointing to the Selenium Grid URL. That's what I'm going to do next. So if I go to readme again to show you what command I would be running. So as I said, I will run this command, maven clean install hyphen install. Spelling of this is not correct. I'll correct it later, but maven clean install hyphen p chrome grid. This is a profile, maven profile, and inside maven profile, I will have something like this. So chrome grid, it means I am sending chrome and grid, which will be converted here inside my Chrome impel. It will come here, it will say, okay, because it's a grid, I have to route to Selenium Grid URL. This is I am fetching from uh, this one. So I will be routing to localhost 444, which is nothing but my Docker Compose container, Selenium Hub, and it's listening to 444, which is actually this one. So now I will just go and run it. Let me open the next one. I'll say maven clean install hyphen d, not hyphen d, it's a profile. So I'll say chrome grid. Oops, what the hell I'm doing. Great. So now this execution should start here. So you will start seeing some sessions here. Let's see. Anything yet? Nothing yet. So it is saying three in queue, one. Okay, now it's saying three in running, one in queue. Why? Because right now all these three, you see, it is saying 50% concurrency. This is occupied. All three chromes are occupied now. This is occupied. This is occupied, and it is executing the test cases. So now the last test case also starts executing. There were four test cases and only three. So one was in queue and other were being executed. Now all the three test cases are executed successfully. So you see, all the test cases were actually executing inside the grid, and the results will also be, so everything will be the same. The result will be there, and it will. I'll open the result just to show. Open in browser and Chrome, and you will see this exactly the same result set. So what if execution actually is happening, and the execution is happening, so there are two parts to it, right? If you're very new to how Selenium Grid really works, so there are two parts to the execution. One is where your Java code executes, so your Java code executing at my local, and I'm passing this request, I'm sending this request for my execution onto the grid, and that's where my browser gets executed. So there's a two-part execution which is happening. A browser gets executed on the grid, and Java code gets executed here. So all the logging, reporting, everything is being generated in my machine where it's actually being executed. So that's how it's going to work. Now to demonstrate one more thing, that is the video feed. How do you know it's actually executing or not, right? So sometimes you have to see what's really happening inside the container, because all you see from this interface is that something is executing. It shows 0%, 1% concurrency, some sessions it shows you, but nothing much. But let's say you want to see what exactly is happening, then you can also get to see using video feed. So it will tells you interactive. It's not only the video feed, actually it's very interactive. You can interact what's happening inside the container from the browser itself. So that, let me show that. For that to work, I need to have sufficient time. So I will just put a delay so that uh, I could show you that. So to do a delay, I will perhaps put some threads, basically thread dot sleep, so that after each step it sleeps for some time. Okay, so let me put some sleeps quickly. I put some sleeps here basically, so that it could be delayed and I could actually show you the effect of that video feed. All right, so now I will run this again. Okay, and once I run this again, I will just quickly go here, and then I will run. I'll hit a URL localhost, and I will say 79001. Oh, sorry, 79000. This one. Why this one? I think something not right. Wait, I think I have to spin up the container again. It's not right. So the mistake I made was that I was hitting the wrong port. So as you see here, for each node, to see what's happening inside that node, you have this port. So I mapped it to 7901, 7902, and 7903. So I will be hitting 7901 to see what's happening in the first container. You click on connect, and then you write this password as secret, secret, secret. And now here you will see what's happening inside. So now I will run it again, and you will start seeing something inside this. So this is where you get the sessions. So first, the moment execution starts, you will start receiving sessions here. That means these many four, because we are executing four test cases in parallel, and testng is doing that for me, by the way. And I'm sending four such requests in parallel. I get three requests here, one in queue, because all I have is three stereotypes present here, and what's happening inside is what you can see here. So 7901 gives you a live feedback of video feed from inside, and you can actually interact with it as well. By the way, you're not supposed to be, because Selenium is handling that for you. So execution one is done, and I can also see what's happening inside 7902. So if I go to 7902, I hope there is still some test case running inside this. just got over. What's happening with 7901? I think nothing to show here as well, because execution got over. Right, so this is what it is. You can make use of this for your execution. In the As I said, in the case of more enterprise level projects, you have to really have a server, a Kubernetes orchestration, where these containers can be spinned up. For that, you can't do it, by the way. You have to take care. I mean, if you want to do it, if you have control, you can. Otherwise, you have to reach out to your infrastructure team so that it could be set up for you. And if not, and if you, let's say, don't have that privilege and you want to do this on local system, then all you have to do is to install Docker on your system, Docker Compose on your system. You have this file, spin up your containers, and then point the test cases locally on this cluster. And what kind of chromes you can use, nodes you can use. There are different versions available. I'm using this one, but you can also choose what version, different versions of chrome, so that you can have different. For example, you want to run a 91, you want to run it on so for some application only works, let's say, in chrome 60, and that also you can do from here. All right, I think that's it I wanted to explain. It's a very really good technology, state of the art, and make use of it, and implement it in your project. I think that's it. Thank you.